The Divine Mother entered my system and I experienced me through this vessel as her. She felt totally divine, infinite, blissful, full of love, full of knowledge, of wisdom. Then I asked her, how can I experience this all the time? And then I got the information I need to get rid of human love. I am here today with Eva Muller, and she has experienced progressing through the 6 stages of consciousness, and we're going to learn about that today. Eva, thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for this nice introduction. I'm very, very happy to be in a podcast, so thank you for having me. Of course. I would love to start about hearing just a little bit of your life story and what led up to your spiritual awakening. Okay, so I had a very ordinary, pretty good life, but I never really felt fulfilled. So no matter what I did, so I was looking for fulfillment in different areas of my life. So after I finished school, I thought, okay, if I finished school, I will feel more fulfilled, because I just didn't feel fulfilled throughout my whole time I went to school, and I didn't really like school a lot. So I thought, okay, when I finish school, I will be more fulfilled. And the same happened after I decided to study law and mediation. So it took me 6 years to finish the law degree. And I was hoping if I finish the law degree, I will feel fulfilled, because I was just lacking of that. And while I was studying law, I also was doing like different kind of sports. I was looking into like body toning, going to the gym, getting a nicer body, doing CrossFit, started to run and be a good runner and stuff like that. So just was looking in different areas of my life. Also, finding a nice partner and finding fulfillment in a relationship. But I mean, all of that was nice. The unfolding of my life was nice, but just this fulfillment was never there. And then after university, I started to work, and I hoped to find fulfillment and just joy and, all of that in a job. And I also didn't. And then I decided to take a break for about two years, just to take a break after working and see if I find it in some other areas of my life. And then I started to listen to podcasts and was reading self-development books, personal development. I was just looking in this kind of areas. And then I came across a book, and they mentioned that fulfillment can only be found in us and never outside of us. Yeah. And then I discovered meditation, and I started with guided meditations. And they bring you in certain areas of your being, which are very nice, like in a relaxed area, or an area very, very clear, or love, or joyful and stuff like that. So they bring you in these areas of your beingness. And I really enjoyed it, and I started to exploring it more. And I had this one meditation where I was guided in a very deep state, and suddenly I dropped in a deep state. I've never been there before. So I didn't have any thoughts anymore. I didn't have any awareness of my body or of myself or of nothing. So it was just pure awareness, and everything else was gone. No problems. So my life was gone, like everything, what was going on at that time. So everything was just gone. It was peaceful. It was very enjoyable. I felt held and loved, and yeah, it was so nice. And then I this was it what I was looking for. So then I realized it. This is the fulfillment, because the fulfillment in myself, in my beingness. Yeah. And basically that's when I started to become interested in meditation. Yeah. Amazing. I love hearing about people who have an experience like that in meditation, because a lot of the people I interview are near-death experiencers who have to go through a really traumatic experience to have that deep spiritual connection. And I love knowing that it's possible to connect through meditation like you did. Yeah. Mhm. So I would love to hear how your journey progressed. So you had this deep experience during meditation, and ultimately I know that you progress through these 6 stages of consciousness, which I'd love to have you share with us what those stages are. But how did you get from that first experience to really pursuing the spiritual awakening?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, so I started to become interested in meditation and just look for fulfillment basically in my inner beingness. And through a friend of mine, he recommended a meditation group to me, and it's the meditation group of Garrett Dignam. Today, he's a really good friend, and we are working together. But back then, I didn't know him. So from True Spiritual Awakening, and it was a meditation on Zoom, just a silent meditation. I joined. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I've never sat just for an hour, not doing anything. So it was kind of challenging at first. And I had no idea what was going on there. But I don't know, I felt a pull towards it, and I felt this is the right thing to do. So I just joined. And for the first 3 months, Garrett is working with transmissions, with spiritual transmissions. So while sitting with him, he transmits divine lights, and some people can feel it, some people don't feel it. And I didn't feel it at first. So I didn't have any experiences. It was just my mind was very busy. My body wanted to get up, but just, it wasn't very enjoyable at first, but I decided to sit through it, and eventually I thought it will be better. And then I had a few experiences in the beginning. I started to feel energies just 2 or 3 times in a meditation rushing through my body. Well, I started to see lights and stuff like that. And then I knew, okay, there is something to it. And I continued. So this was kind of giving me hope that there is something more or something more exciting to come. And yeah, after a time of like 3 months regular meditation, I actually started to feel energies all the time. So always when I was sitting in meditation, I started to feel energies. I started to see lights, colors, visions. I mean, more random visions, but visions. So there was just a lot going on, and I felt I was more expanding. My consciousness was expanding and stuff like that. So I had really good meditations, and I really enjoyed them. And by joining this meditation group, I kind of learned about spiritual awakening. So what it is, so awakening of consciousness. I had no idea what it was before and never read about it or anything. And it's really about figuring out or finding out what your true nature is and living through that. So not just reading it from a book and knowing it from a mind point of view, but really experiencing that. Yeah, and I thought this must be it. I just had this pull towards that. This is what I want to experience. I want to experience high levels of consciousness. And I'm just going to share the levels, and I will go through them because I experienced them all. So the first one is self-realization. Then the second one I'm going to talk about is God consciousness. The third one is unity consciousness. The fourth one is Brahman consciousness, and there is Brahman consciousness. So those ones I mainly talk about. Yeah. And yeah, in the meditation group, there was the option to have one-on-one sessions and to basically start expanding consciousness and experiencing these levels. I started doing one-on-one sessions. And there's a certain technique how the light is used to expand the consciousness of a person. Yeah, and the first basically more noticeable stage for me was the self-realization. And this is where I actually had a change in experience. Okay, so how did it unfold? I realized, not from a mind point of view, but from an experiential point of view, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not my thoughts, I'm the observer of all of that. And also my vision changed. So I experienced life through like a camera lens. So like the vision kind of closed down a little bit, the left and right, it was black. And I looked through everything like through a camera lens and was basically observing everything. And this was a real change in experience. So it wasn't just a intellectual understanding, okay, I'm not the mind, the body, and all of that. So this really changed. And with that, a lot of changes came because I saw my ego more clearly. I saw patterns in my system. I also saw the ego and pattern in other people's systems more. I discovered that I believed things that weren't serving me, or was surrounded by people that weren't serving me or weren't good for me and stuff like that. So just more awareness came in general for me and how I lived my life and what's good for me and what not. And also a lot of this misunderstanding started to fall away. So what's not good for me and patterns I inherited, for example, from my parents, or, things you learn from society. You think you have to do this and that, and just this all started to show itself and to fall away. So that was really good, and I really enjoyed that phase. Also, everything seemed to be more impersonal, so it's kind of nice to go through life because things are not so personal anymore. And then, yeah, it's just a nicer life experience. And then the next it's not a stage, it's more of a time where this experience is showing up. It's called God consciousness. And so it's basically experiencing God in everything. How is this unfolding? So I saw it always in a certain amount of time when I went outside. So mostly it was in nature. And I saw it like for half an hour, for 1 hour, and the longest was for like 2 hours. It was on my birthday, so it was kind of my birthday present. So everything just looked very radiant, and the colors were a lot brighter, and everything seemed like being allayed with gold. So a golden shimmer. Everything had a golden shimmer. You could see that everything is energy. So in that kind of way, it was very, very beautiful. Everything looked blissful. So the energy, the vibration, I experienced the bliss. So by looking at everything, there was just bliss reflecting. So it was really, really beautiful. Yeah. So this was the next more profound experiences, and also the meditations got a lot better, a lot deeper, more experiences came in. Yeah. And then the next, or the real shift, the first real big shift I had was then into unity consciousness. So it took about a year of doing one-on-one sessions and regular meditation so that I was able to experience that. And I want to go a bit more in detail into this. So I was working on that day, and suddenly everything again started to be very blissful, looked very beautiful. I had a lot of joy and love in my system. So I felt very elevated. And I thought, okay, because I knew I was very close to that shift. And I thought, okay, this is going to be the shift now. So I'm going to shift into unity consciousness. I was very excited about that because I had big expectations. I thought if I shift into unity consciousness, my life will be better. I will feel like still was looking for this fulfillment at that stage. So I will feel fulfilled. And so this was all going on during the day. And in the evening, I went home and did my regular meditation. And this is when the unity shift actually happened. So my skin flew off. So that's how I saw it. It was just the skin flew off like a balloon, it just popped off my body, and I was one with everything. So like the barrier that was there before, the small human barrier was just gone. I was one with everything. And then, okay, this happened. I was very happy because I had high expectations. And then I went to bed, and on the next day, it was so weird because I got up, and mostly these things are very clear to see outside. So I went outside, and it was so interesting because before I was in this small form, right? So I was in this tight form in the small cells. And then everything was just like opened up to one, and I was one with everything. So at first it was hard to kind of, when you're drunk and just stumble around because you get out of balance in that kind of way. So that's what happened at first. So it was a very, very different way of experiencing the world, how I saw it through my eyes, and also how I experienced myself. It was very different. Also, so I had kind of a harder time because of that shift, because it's such a big change of experience. So the whole system needs to integrate these new changes. And so I felt like a hole was in my chest because the small self was ripped out. So the person who I thought I was, so Eva, was basically gone. And then I saw later the person who I thought I was is just an energy structure. And I built this energy structure throughout my life, and I believed it, but then it was removed. So it was basically a hole there just for a few days, then it closed down again. And then I was very sensitive to energies. So I felt energies everywhere. I felt beings from other dimensions, just being in the room, for example. I felt beings coming in, leaving the room. And it was hard to, I was very sensitive to certain foods and stuff like that. So just my system was very, very sensitive at that time. And also the mechanism. So the ego steps into the background more, because at first we identify with the ego, right? So this is all we know. We identify with the ego. The ego steps in the background, but we I was used to this throughout my whole life, right? That the ego is in the forefront, but then it stepped into the background. So it was just a very weird feeling. And also the mechanism of holding down experiences and emotions I didn't want to feel and I didn't want to experience. This mechanism just breaks down by this shift. So before, if you had an experience and you just didn't want it, you pushed it away. You said, okay, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to have nothing to do with it. And then when this mechanism is gone, you have to feel basically what's happening at the moment, but also what's stored in the system kind of came up. So for a time of like 2 months, there was a lot of anxiety, fear coming up, depression, stuff like that. So there was just a lot coming up and getting cleared out of my system. Yeah. So this was just a time from about 2 months that was fine. And after 2 months, I felt better and I could actually start to enjoy this state more, because feeling one with everything is very beautiful. You meet a person and she's exactly the same as you. There is no difference. Also, the time kind of collapsed. So there is no time, no sense of time anymore. So you're only in the present moment. There is no past and future. So this collapses. Then what else? Also, there was a change of, first, I was more perceiving the outside world. So I was living from this body and the interaction was always with the outside world. And this then completely changed. And my main experience is then the inside, not the outside anymore. So the outside is just there to have basically a feedback of what I think and do and want and all of that. And the inside is then the main experience. Yeah. And there is a lot that came with that shift, just a lot of changes. Also, I didn't feel the same anymore. Every day was very different. I felt very different every day. So this stable, this experience of feeling stability all the time totally left. Yeah. And then also meditations got a lot deeper, a lot better. I really enjoyed meditating around that time. And yeah. And then I was in the unity phase for about 1.5 years. So unity is really the self. So that the small self falls away in unity, and then you basically identify with the big self. So all that is, it's all one self. And this needs to integrate in basically all areas of your life so that you can actually live from that. And there was a time where I realized, okay, I have a lot of just low vibrational energies in my system, a lot of experiences that are coming up and that are triggering me and all of that. I need to do some healing work. So I started to, go to healers and do healing work and release some skaras. So some skaras are karma. So to release that out of the system so that the system just gets clearer and clearer, so that all low vibration energies basically, or most of them, could just leave the system. Because I realized there were days where this openness was there and this, I felt the bliss and the joy and all of that was there. And then there were days where this was just blocked or I couldn't feel it. And I felt basically the opposite. So I felt down or just not enjoyable. And I realized this is because this mechanism broke down of pushing down emotions we don't want to feel, that they are just coming up. And I wanted to clear my system as much as possible to not have to experience them all the time. Yeah. So that's what I did for quite some time. Until then, the experience of just the openness and the self and the clarity and stuff like that was mostly dominant. Yeah. And then after about 1.5 years, I went to a meditation. So a lot happened over these 1.5 years, a lot of changes. And then after 1.5 years, I went to a retreat, a spiritual retreat, and I had a very beautiful experience. So we did a meditation with devotional music to the Divine Mother. So I always used to love meditating with Mother Mira. She's an incarnation of the Divine Mother. She's an Indian woman and lives in Germany. So I regularly meditated with her as well. So I was kind of very into, devotional to the Divine Mother. I started to become devotional to her. And I felt very drawn to that aspect. And on that retreat, we were listening to devotional music of the Divine Mother. And then all of a sudden, I mean, we were working with energies, and energies were always present in meditations. But then basically the Divine Mother entered my system, and I experienced me through this vessel as her. So she felt like totally like divine, infinite, blissful, full of love, full of knowledge, of wisdom, very feminine. So that was very dominant, the feminine, very strict as well. So a lot of different aspects. The Divine Mother has a lot of different aspects. So I could feel them for like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And this was such a profound experience because, I never experienced anything like that before. And I just felt so, like, I felt like I was the whole universe. And then I asked her, is it possible, or how can I experience this all the time? Because if I can experience this now in meditation, that must mean I probably can experience this like all the time as well. And then I got the information I need to get rid of human love. And human love is basically conditional love. I just called it human love. And after the retreat for about 2 weeks, I was first of all experiencing a lot of love coming in. So every time I meditated, there was just so much love coming in, and I felt so nurtured and loved, and I was crying, and it was so beautiful. So I experienced a lot of love. And at the same time, I was shown what I thought human love is. So conditional love. And it's really, okay, I only love you if you love me back. I'm only nice to you when you're nice to me. It's like, I love you because you're my mother or something like that. So there's always like a condition, and I gave it away. So I knew I had to give, every time I experience the love, I have to give it to the Divine Mother, or the human love, because it's not of the truth, not of the highest truth. So I gave it to her. And then eventually one day all was given away. And then I became the Brahman. So the Brahman is the next stage. And it's becoming the Brahman. And this is very profound because it's basically it feels like you're turned off. Like a plug is pulled and there's just emptiness. There's nothingness. So there is no human. So I knew I wasn't a human anymore. So that was gone. I wasn't I'm in a body, I have a soul, but I'm not an individual anymore. And the Brahman is very profound because it's so different. It's out of creation. So all the other stages are experienced in creation. And the Brahman is basically outside of creation. So I walk through life looking into creation, but being outside of creation. And it's like, I know the mind can't grasp that. It's really hard to understand and it sounds weird. But it's really like you walk through life and you look from outside of creation into creation and experience life through that. There was no love, no joy, also no suffering. Like I didn't experience any emotion for that time I was there. It was about 3 months. And there was just nothing going on. It was really like there's really nothing going on. Yeah. It's a very weird way of being or experiencing life, but I knew it's just part of expanding consciousness. So I knew it's just I'm going to be there for a while and that's it. And also in the Brahman, it's basically when you, for example, you look in the distance and then you look, it looks like there is a screen, like a movie screen, and you look at the movie screen and everything in between the movie screen and yourself is just a reflection of your own consciousness. It's not real. It's like in a computer game. That's how it looks like. And behind this movie screen is nothing. So then this realization or this seeing or this knowing came in that, I mean, we've heard that before, but like just living that we are only, everything we experience everything what we experience is a projection of our own consciousness. So nothing else exists, but this is something what you experience then. So not just something that it's intellectually known. So I spent there about 2 or 3 months. It was kind of, let's say, a bit hard because if you don't have any joy or love or anything in your life, like I didn't experience any love for anybody. Everybody is exactly the same. Like I didn't have any love for my partner, nor from my parents, nor from nobody. Like everybody felt exactly the same. So there's no difference. So basically what starts to come forward is the essence of everybody. So you start seeing the essence and not the personality so much, and not like their ego and everything that's going on, but just the essence. I basically felt the whole time as if I was in a very deep meditation, although I was just navigating normally throughout life, like that was totally possible. But I felt like I was always in a deep meditation, so not really being able to interact a lot with my outside world, and there was no interest. Just the interest of interacting totally fell away. And yeah, and then I was in that stage for quite some time, and it wasn't so pleasant. But then I decided, because always when I had a conversation with somebody, I felt like, when you meditate, you're kind of in a deep state. And then when somebody comes up and, says something to you, you have to get out of meditation, right? And then, oh my God, I need to get out of meditation. Then you talk to the person. And then for me, it felt like I dropped back into a very deep meditation again. So I was back in the meditation. And then when the person said something again, I was pulled out of meditation. So that's how it was so weird. Like this experience was just so weird. I felt like I was in a deep meditation all the time. Yeah, and then I realized, okay, I'm not a big help for my partner or my family or nobody really, because I started to, be more by myself and not interacting with them a lot. And then I basically decided to come back. And what it means is, so there is the Brahman. I mean, the Brahman is the absolute, and this is liberation. There from one level of consciousness, this is the level. But the Brahman is then just the possibility to be back in creation and experience more of life again. So the love starts to come in slowly, the joy comes in slowly, and also the interest in this world and in this life starts to come back in slowly, because it was totally gone before. Yeah, and then life just became a bit nicer. And with that, basically, I became a channel for divine forces. So going outside of creation, there are specific forces that we then, or people who go outside of creation, who have these shifts or these experiences, can then bring back in, and we can work with them here. So energy started to come in through my system. And I basically started to transmit these energies to people as well, and started to work with people. And at first, I didn't really know what this is all about. I just knew it was coming in, and this is a thing, because I've known people who went to Brahman, and then the Brahman, and then these forces started to come in. And I just started to work with people in one-on-one settings. And what kind of came was that the energies I was working with, or the lights I was working with, they had healing qualities as well. So I discovered that I can help people to heal their human system. So basically get rid of low vibrational energies, get rid of the falsehood that are in the system, because the lights I'm working with, they're carrying the highest truth. The highest truths means if you're exposed to these lights and they come in and they transform your system, so everybody's individual system, to a higher truth, to their own personal highest truth. And everything that's not of truth gets transformed over time. And then I was basically just shown what to do, because I didn't really learn how to heal or anything before. I mean, I had a Reiki initiation and a Palawa healing initiation, but these are just healing modalities, where somebody tells you need to do this and that to evoke or call in these energies, and then they work. But there, I didn't know. And they were just coming in, and basically the lights were showing me what I need to do. And in every session, I learned a bit more about what I need to do. So over a period of like 2-3 months, and doing lots of sessions for friends and family members and animals, I just worked on everybody who was interested. I learned a whole concept for how to heal a human system. And yeah, and then basically this just started to open up, and people started to become interested in working with me and in sitting in the transmission I work with. And yeah, and this is what I do today. So let's say 4 years ago, I started to meditate. I didn't know anything about enlightenment or yeah. I mean, I don't really like to use the word enlightenment because it has a lot of different people have different understandings of that, but liberation. And so I went through all these levels of consciousness in a period of 3 years, and then just started to do the healing work. And I've done it. I've done it since, and a lot of people are benefiting from it and enjoying it. And yeah, and basically what I transmit is the Brahman state as well. So the higher level of the higher state of consciousness. So if you're sitting in this transmission, you get to experience that, and also the healing aspect, so that the human system gets healed. Yeah.
Eva, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I have so many questions, and I think I'd like to go back to the beginning of your spiritual journey and start with asking you this because I think a lot of people are at the beginning stages or just getting into meditating and have questions about the practical side of how to get into this process. So, when you began meditating, how long did it take for you to have your first spiritual experience? And was there any specific technique that you used?
I mean, when I started to meditate in silence, I didn't know that there was a transmission happening at the same time as well at first. So I had no idea. But this is basically what I can totally recommend to people, because if you meditate with a transmission, I mean, it has to be from a spiritual teacher or somebody who is in a higher level of consciousness, because they can transmit these levels of consciousness. It basically elevates the possibility to go there, to reach these higher states of consciousness as well. Because if you, I mean, it's possible to just sit by yourself, you listen to music or in silence, and this is more for, calming down, stress release, well-being, and all of that. So that's very helpful. But there are a lot of techniques out there, and a lot of different ways of meditating, but the one I can recommend is really meditating with a transmission, because they will just bring you forward so much quicker and into these higher states so much quicker. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. And I know that's something you offer. So we'll get to that in a little bit here. I want to go over the stages of consciousness that you mentioned just to make sure I understand them. And for anyone in the beginning who might be confused because I said 6 stages of consciousness, I think the other one is at the beginning. In your email, you called it ignorance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. This is basically when you don't know that all of these levels are possible, and you don't know what meditation is, and you're not a spiritual person really, or you're not into meditation, and you're not open for all of that. So this is basically, it's just called ignorance. Yes.
Okay. So we have
Mhm.
ignorance, and then there was self realization, which, and
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but that was more of an observer state.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. When you become the observer of yourself, of your body, of your mind, of basically everything that's going on in your system, you step, you basically step a little bit in the background and watch yourself from the background. Yeah.
Okay. And next was God consciousness. And that's when you stepped outside and you saw the higher, like the light and felt the bliss.
Yeah, exactly. This is more, God consciousness is more, it opens up. So at a certain stage, this can happen for people. It doesn't have to happen for people who are walking on this path, but it just opened up for a certain amount of time. And it's called God consciousness because God is seen in everything. Yeah, that's why
Okay.
it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
And then the next was unity consciousness, where you experienced yourself as one with everything. And that's where
Mhm.
you said that it was almost like being drunk and having to figure out a new way, like a new lens of experiencing the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just the first day because, we are used to this tight body mind system our whole lives. And then suddenly these boundaries just dissolved. And then I was one with everything. And then you walk around and you're one with everything. And they're like, these boundaries are just gone. So it's a very unfamiliar feeling. Yeah. But this was just in the first day. And the thing is with these shifts, they integrate quite quickly. So after a few days, it feels more normal. Or after a few weeks, you just feel like that. You kind of forget how it felt before. You don't really have a memory of that. Only just intellectual, just maybe an intellectual memory, but you don't have any access to that state anymore. So it's like, yeah, you experience the new state and that's your main experience.
Okay.
Mm.
And then the final two were Brahman, which
Mhm.
was emptiness and nothingness, no
Mhm.
emotion. And then, of course, Para Brahman, where you're integrating that experience back into life. So I would like to ask you more about the state of Brahman because this is something I've wondered about. As I've progressed on my own spiritual journey, I've started to come up against, and I haven't really entered into it, but I would start to feel this state of consciousness in which you're detached from the daily life. And just started to feel it enough that I wondered to myself, if I really dove into that state of consciousness, would I still care about things that I care about now, like my responsibilities with work and the story that I'm living out as a human with my relationships and everything I have going on. And I have seen some videos on YouTube where people experience this state and they title it something like the dark side of enlightenment. Nobody tells you once you get here, you just don't care about anything. And so I'm
Yeah.
wondering from your perspective, do you think that's a valuable experience for us to be pursuing, or do you think that we should be more grounded in the story while we're here as humans?
Mm. I think it's very hard to shift into to Brahman or become the Brahman. So it's something you really have to want and you really have to go for it. So it's not really just happening to you, you know. So you really have to do certain meditation practices, try to go into deep states, deep samadhi states, because in deep samadhi states you can already in Nirvikalpa samadhi, for example, you already drop into the Brahman, and then when you get up again, you get out of it, but you just drop into it, and eventually it becomes your experience. So it's kind of, you have to work for it to get there. And it's a very interesting state because for me, it was so interesting because I just knew I'm not a human. And this was the liberation. Like, this was so liberating to know, okay, I'm actually not a human. I mean, of course, we all know we are spiritual beings and we are just here to have a human experience. But this is then like your lived experience. Oh, I'm not a human. I'm something else. And I mean, I wasn't there for very long. And if you, for example, drop into this state, and then you know, okay, I don't want to stay there forever, but it's a very good experience because a lot of information comes in. So with these states, always a lot of knowledge just comes because you have more awareness. There's just more openness with that information comes in. And this is so valuable and so helpful. So for me, the Brahman stage, even though it wasn't the most enjoyable one because there was no joy, I learned the most in that stage, and really seeing that everything is a reflection of your consciousness, that there is actually an outside of creation, and this can be an experience. This is so valuable and this is so amazing that we as humans can go through these stages in just one lifetime and get to experience them. That's just so incredible, because I couldn't imagine anything on the outside what I could do, what gives me anything compared to that. It's not possible, you know. It's not possible. So this is very special. If something is not of your highest truth, it will fall away. It falls away on the journey anyways. Like, eventually stuff that's not of your highest truth, they just fall away. But you're actually happy to let them go because you see they're not serving you. You don't need them, so you let them go. And things that are important, they definitely stay, and things that are more of your purpose, so they definitely stay. For me, for example, because I work with people, I guide them or help them on their path, and this fear comes up quite a lot, and usually stuff only falls away for people if they were in an unhealthy relationship or they had a job they didn't like or something like that. So it's kind of, obvious things. For me, I kept my relationship, so that stayed. I just changed the job because the healing came in, so that's what I did. But other than that, in my outside life experience, like when people are looking at my life, not a lot has changed. Things stayed very similar.
So when you moved from Brahman into Para Brahman and you said the love and the joy came back, did suffering come back as well?
Yes, it came back as well. And also the love and the joy is very different. So the love is not, so that's why I said I had to get rid of human love, because the best way to describe it, because human love, it's so felt in the heart. And if you love somebody, you feel the love for a person, right? So it feels nice in the body. And then the conditional love, so the human love goes away, but then the unconditional love comes in. And this is basically everybody's the same. So you have the same love for everybody. It doesn't matter who it is, if it's an adult, a child, from whichever country the person is, it doesn't really matter. For beings, it doesn't matter if it's animal or human, there's just exactly the same love for everybody. So there is also the same love for my partner than I have for a stranger outside. So that changed. But the difference is I still feel drawn to his beingness, for example, and also my friends. I just feel drawn to their being. So it's a bit different. It's a bit different than before. Some people you just like to hang out with, and some people you don't. It's just from a feeling point of view. And this is still there. So some beings I feel really drawn to, and I spend a lot of time with them. Like my partner, I feel really drawn to him. But this human love, this is gone for good. This is gone for good. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Hawkins scale of consciousness? I think I heard you guys talking about it, with you and Gareth.
Yeah.
So how would these stages correlate with Hawkins scale of consciousness?
Mhm. So the Hawkins scale measures vibration, and we also used a scale for the levels of consciousness, and it basically goes from 0 to 1,000. And the Hawkins scale is very similar. And 1,000 is unity consciousness. So this is when you become one with everything. This is 1,000. And self-realization is 640. So there is this, yeah, it's around 640. Then God consciousness we were talking about is around 700 and 800. And when I started, I was around 500, I think. This is when I started. And this is where most people start to become interested in meditation or open to spirituality, towards healing, toward just, to all this, to this new world, basically. So this is the soul. So this is the journey of the soul we were talking about. And the soul, it's called dejection. The soul was looking for happiness on the outside, or for fulfillment, for joy in a lot of incarnations, a lot of lifetimes. But then we're lucky in this lifetime. The soul kind of realized, okay, I can't find it outside. I have to look on the inside. And this is where most people are starting to become interested in that path. It's around the 500 range. And the normal humans are around, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it's like 250, 350 or something. This is what a normal average human is around. And this is also why I thought it was so fascinating, because why are people so different? Why do they have experiences and see it so different? Of course, it's upbringing, the conditioning and stuff like that, but it's also the level of consciousness where they're at and what they are actually able to perceive. Because in different levels, you have just access to different information and different emotions also. So in lower levels, you experience more low vibrational emotions, and you don't have so much access to love and compassion and stuff like that, for example. And in more higher states, you have more access to those. So I just always thought it was so fascinating. Yeah.
It is. That's fascinating to me too. And I love it when people put it on a scale. I know that turns some people off because they feel like it's more of a comparison thing. But I think it can be so helpful for people personally to gauge where they're at and what their next steps could be. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're familiar with Aaron Abke, but he also developed a scale of consciousness. So it's kind of fun to see how they all correlate.
Yeah, yeah. No, I haven't heard of him yet, but I think, I mean, if the last stage, so unity is that what people mostly can measure, and then it kind of stops. So it's always unity. But I also found it so helpful and interesting to know where I'm at and what's happening, when I knew, okay, because I did one-on-one sessions. So from one session to the other, I had every 2 weeks, I had a session. Then I had jumps of these levels of consciousness of 20 or 30 points or something like that. And then seeing how my experience changed of myself, how I experienced the world, how I experienced my friends and stuff like that. So how this changed. And I thought it was really fascinating and it's helpful. Like I loved it because I love to measure stuff. I love to know where I'm at. And then I know where to go and what to do for it, So I just thought it was really helpful. So yeah, I think it's brilliant. People who are creating these scales. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So you said you measured where you were at. How did you go about measuring that?
Yeah, so I didn't measure it. It was Garrett. So the meditation group I joined, he started to offer that because this was also something he shifted into unity consciousness. And then it was shown to him how to help other people to do the same. And he basically measured it with muscle testing. So there are different ways of doing that with muscle testing. So you have this scale and then you just muscle test where people are at. With a bit of practice, it's quite simple to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have one more question. This is kind of just of personal interest to me. Do you have any thoughts on where some of the great masters, like the yogi masters, like maybe Yogananda or Jesus, were at on this scale of consciousness?
Very honest, I don't know. I don't know. Because I've heard teachings, for example, about where Jesus were at, but the teachers were talking from their level of consciousness. So how they interpreted it. And then they saw it of where they at, you know, fr- from that perspective. And this kind of is then their truth, where they at in the moment and what they were sharing from. But then the next teacher who was in a higher level of consciousness was sharing from his point of view. And then Jesus was also in a higher level of consciousness. So it's really about who is interpreting the old texts, scriptures and stuff like that. And where the teacher is at. Yeah.
I love that
But
answer. Thank you for your
mm,
honesty.
yeah. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, Eva, I would love to give you a chance to share more about what you do and where people can find you. And then we also talked about you doing a transmission.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I have a website. It's called www.em-healing.com. And the same, my YouTube channel is called the same. So I upload twice a week healing videos. So it's very cool because these transmissions, they basically can be tapped into with YouTube videos. So I record it on a YouTube video. So it's created on an energetical level. There is no time and space. And then when you turn on the YouTube video, it's basically you tap into this created healing and then you can receive the transmission. So that's really cool. So also the people who are listening to the podcast, it will be released sometimes in the future. They can also, if they're sensitive and if their system can feel energies, they can totally feel that. And this can be learned, by the way. So just by being exposed to energies, to transmissions over and over again, the system and the nervous system gets more refined, and then it's possible to feel it. Yeah, because some people don't, but that's okay. They still receive because the lights that are coming in, they carry information, and the systems are getting this information. So no matter if you feel it or not. Yeah, and then I'm on YouTube, so there are these videos. Then I'm a podcast host as well. So the Endless Possibilities podcast with my co-host Garrett Dignam, whose meditation group I joined 4 years ago. So we have a podcast now. And yeah, and I'm also on Instagram.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I will have all those links in the description so people can check those out. Thank you so much for everything you offer.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me share that on your podcast. That's really amazing.
Yeah, of course. And would you still like to do a transmission on this podcast?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
please. I'm just going to remove my headphones. So it will take 5-6 minutes, and what I will do is I will connect you directly to the energy of the Divine Mother, and so that you can feel it in your body. And I will share everything I do. So yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna tune in, takes a minute, and then I just start sharing. Okay, so in the beginning, I just start opening up your energy field so that the light can enter your system. Now bring in the light. And I also expand the energy field so that your energy field can hold more light as well. And more awareness comes with that too. I'm expanding it. And I fill up the expanded space with light. And then actually surface energies. So these are just energies that are floating around on top of the system and that are in the way at the moment. So just energies that have been triggered over the past day or two. So I'm just clearing them. And by the way, I'm using my hands for working. And I am working directly in your energy field. So that's how I do it. Okay, just clearing it. And then I also clear thoughts out of the mind. Okay, I open the energy field some more. Bringing more light into the system. And then there are different entrance points for energies in the system, which I'm opening up now. So on the top of the head, there's an entrance point. So I'm just clearing it. I expand it. Then on the forehead, clearing it. Expand it. Then back of the head, clearing it. Expanding it. Then heart chakra. So I'm just clearing surface energies out of the heart chakra. Expand it there as well. And then in the back and backside of the heart chakra, there's also an entrance point. Clearing that. Expanding it too. Okay, and now I connect you directly to the energy of the Divine Mother, to her light, top of the head, the forehead, the back of the head, the heart chakra, the back of the heart chakra. And now I let her light fill up your system for about 2 minutes. And also fill up your heart with unconditional love. Now fill up your whole system with high vibrational healing energies, love, light, truth, trust, joy, abundance, and health. Okay, that was a small taste.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Did you feel the energies? Is this something you can do?
I felt that.
Oh
I've
yeah.
spoken to some people and I've had other people do transmissions and I don't always feel anything, but I felt that.
Oh, I'm glad. Okay, great.
Yes, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I'm happy. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Eva, thank you again for being willing to share not only your journey with us, but your gifts and for being willing to answer my questions. I'm really thankful for your perspective as somebody who's experienced all these states of consciousness. And I'm really thankful for the work that you're doing in helping other people to heal.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you for having me on the podcast that I'm able to share this story with others so that people know that this exists and this is a possibility for everybody if they feel drawn to that. And thank you for your great questions. I really, really enjoyed them. And also for giving me the opportunity to share the transmission. So that's really amazing. Thank you so much. It
Yeah,
was lovely talking with you. Yeah.
likewise. Thank you for watching the Love Covered Life podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video with your friends, and comment with your thoughts and opinions. And check the description box for the links to my TikTok and Instagram, where I share the more personal side of my life, my website, where I share my paintings and merch, and also the Be a Guest link for anybody who's interested in sharing their story. Be loved, be happy, be at peace, and thank you for watching.